Welcome to GausRoth Tutorials. I'm GausRoth, and today we're going to look at VIP lists. Now, first off, we need to go into build mode and we need to create a script. There are several different ways we can do this, so we're going to go through it one step at a time. And we need a script, we need a cube to hold our script, we're going to need another cube, and a trigger. First off, to do it the hard-coded way, we're going to create a string list. And let's see here, we're going to go lists, turn it into a string, and we're just going to call this VIP list. And I'm just going to click on this white arrow and just add my name. I'm using my bot account, so let's just type in the name, Gallon More. We'll go over to events and we're going to find our player events. So when the player enters the world, all we're going to do is we're going to check, so if the list contains the player's name. So if operators, scroll all the way down to lists, and then we're just going to grab list contains item. So if name of player is in this VIP list, so variables, grab our VIP lists. So if this returns true, we will show a pop-up. So under actions, scroll all the way down to pop-ups, we'll just do a simple pop-up. We're going to show a pop-up for the player that entered the world with VIP. So next we need to attach our script to this cube. We don't need it to be visible. We don't need light and shadow, we don't need collidability, we do need the script, and we don't need it set to animated. So now when we enter the world, we get a pop-up saying VIP, and just to show you, I'll go into the script, I will remove my name, and when I enter, now I don't get that pop-up. So let's undo that, and I'm going to do some stuff with this cube here and this trigger, so let's bring it down, resize it a little bit. It's good. We can take this and we're just going to make this look like a door of sorts. It's really tiny. And what I'm going to do is when I enter this trigger, it's going to check if I'm a VIP and it'll allow me to walk through that door, because currently if I hit this door, nothing happens. I'm stuck. So now we need to add a variable for our trigger and for our door. And we're going to use connections, so we're going to go to events, scroll down to connect to event, and we're going to do the trigger enter for our trigger and trigger exit for our trigger. We'll just drop in our trigger variable so we don't forget. And then we need our events, so we'll go to events, go down to player events. And then when trigger is entered by player, when trigger is exited by player, we will check if VIP contains that player. Just reset all these player variables and bring it down here. Do the same. Now we don't need these pop-ups. But if VIP list contains the name of the player, what we're going to do is we're going to set collidability for that door off. So object collidability, drag in our door, and set it to false. And then when the player exits a trigger, we'll set it back to true. So now we need to connect those object variables. So let's open these up quick. We have our trigger and our cube, which is our door. So now, if I reset the world, I enter, I get a VIP, and if I enter that trigger, I can walk right through the door. Now I exited the trigger, so now if I try to hit the door, I'm stuck. I can't go through. I mean, my hands can kind of go through clip through it, and it works. So the ideal would be to kind of maybe make it just a little bit bigger, and then do it like that. So then you could have like maybe a wall here. So let's just kind of make that quick. We can have one here. Make it just a little bit taller so we know where we're at. And we'll do that one over there. So now I have this wall here, here, but now I can enter this trigger and I can pass through the door. The trigger is going through the door, so now I can enter it again. And unless someone's like right on your tail, you know, they won't be able to follow you, so you could actually make this a little bit smaller if you're concerned about that. Or another thing you could do to prevent people from following you is when triggers entered by player, we have, if VIP list contains name of player, what we can do is else, and then you can respawn. So let's grab an object variable for our spawn point and go to motion, player motion, and we can respawn that player to our spawn point. And then we just got to connect, so open that, open this, drop our spawn point in. Gotta close our script first. Drop our spawn point in. And now, let's take my name out of our VIP list. And now when I enter this trigger, I'll just respawn. Undo that. Now this is the manual way. So this will, you have to go into edit mode, you would have to manually add these names to this list. That might be desirable, that might not be. You might want to be able to add players to a list while you're in the publish mode. So what we're going to have to do to add that is, let's clear that, reset it quick, and I'm going to create a, kind of like a scepter, I think. So let's go and make it, say 0, 2, why not? 0, 2 on this, and that might be fine for height. Let's just go in and see what it looks like. Yeah, that's good enough. Need a sphere, and let's go 0.1 on the X, Y, Z. We can just attach this over here. So the idea is when this ball collides with a player, we're going to add them. But we're going to have to add some checks. First of all, we need a way to connect to the grab event of the scepter and the collision event. So we need an object variable for our scepter and an object variable for the ball end. And in our start, we're going to connect to those things. So on trigger, we're going to actually use our scepter, and we have our grab start. And if those don't show up inside here, you just have to drop in the actual event and they'll show up. And we need a grab end. And then we need our collision for our ball. So we'll just do that and collision enter. So we're connecting to those specific events. Yes. So now we go to our collision, and then when colliding with player, and we need to find our grab events. So when object is grabbed, when object is released. So now we will just set, we need a boolean, forgot to add the boolean. Just call this one is grabbed. And we will just drop that in, true, paste this one down here, set it to false. So when the object is grabbed, we're setting is grabbed to true. When it's released, we're setting it to false. And then when the ball end collides, we are going to check if, so we got to find our control, if not, so values, or operator, scroll all the way up, grab a not under logic. So if VIP list does not contain name of player, so if it's not already in, we are going to then add. So we need to go into our operator, scroll all the way down to lists, add to list, and we're going to add the name of the player to the VIP list. And then we can show a pop-up. So let's bring our pop-up down here. And we do need to do some changes to the ball because it's colliding, so it has to be animated. And then under more, we have to change collision events from nothing to players. And that is all we have to do for that. We do have to group these. Actually, I'm going to leave it open. We're going to need that in a minute. Group that. Open that up. This has to be interactive and grabbable. We can add a grab anchor. And let's just, I don't know, let's move it like right there. And now on the object that's holding our script, we have to connect those objects. So the scepter is the group, and the sphere is the ball. I'll open up our script one more time and remove myself from this list. If I reset, so now if I go into play mode, I don't get the pop-up and I get respawn when I enter that trigger. Now if I pick this up and then collide the ball end with the player, I get the pop-up, and now I can travel through the VIP door. However, now if I were to reset the world and come back in, I don't get that pop-up and I'm getting respawned. So this way is only good for that particular instance. So if they were to leave and come back and the world instance did not reset, they would still be able to go through the door. But if you were to like go into a new instance or something, this wouldn't work. They would not be able to go through that door. Now that might be desirable. However, if we wanted it to be more or less permanent so they could come and go as they please and still have access to the VIP, what we would have to do is use PPVs. So we're going to go over to Systems, Player Variables, create a variable. I'm just going to call this one VIP. And so everybody's VIP variable will start off at 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy all of this, and I'm going to move it over. And now I'm going to just change the script on this one. So this one is going to be our PPV version. So let's just get rid of this VIP list. And instead we are going to check. So when world is entered by player, we will see if the PPV equals 1. So instead of contains, we'll just check, go to our values, get our player persistent variable for that player. We're going to check VIP and we're going to make sure it is 1. So delete that 5, put a 1 in. So if it is 1, we're going to show the pop-up. We'll do the same thing for our trigger. So if PPV VIP for player equals 1, we will just make sure we update our player variable here. We will set door collidability to false or respawn the player. We'll do the same down here for the exit when trigger. So we'll just copy over this player variable. I don't know if it actually took, so let's paste that back in there. And again, down here. However, this is the opposite, so we're going to delete that, put that in, and change this 1 to a 0. So if it's a 0 when we're colliding with the ball, instead of adding the name, we're just going to set our PPV VIP to 1 for the player. Now let's just make sure that the player variable is right, and then we will get our pop-up and be allowed to move through that VIP area. So if I clear that out, just make sure so I can show you both of them, how they're working side by side. And am I removed? I am. Okay, so we're reset. I come in, I don't get any VIP pop-up. I can't enter, I get respawned. I come over here, I can't enter. But if I, wrong way, grab this and touch my body with it, I get a VIP pop-up and I can enter through that door. However, I can't go through this one because I am using a different script. So now I could add myself to this one also, and I can go through here. So those are the two different ways of doing this. The difference is, if I were to come in, I'm still not on this list, but I should. Let's reset. Come in, and I'm still a VIP. I can still go through this door. I can not go through this one, but this one is the more permanent. Now I could, maybe have like another scepter here, right? And then instead of setting the PPV to 1, we could set it to 0, and then they would no longer have access to the VIP, and that would be a way to remove that permanent VIP access. Whereas this one, you lose it every time you go into a new instance of that world. Now, you don't have to use a scepter. You could use a gun. You could have like maybe a special object in the world somewhere that after maybe like a scavenger hunt, and you could then set VIP after they found all the objects, or after they found the end of a maze. Or you could have like a projectile launcher that you could shoot people and give them VIP access. There's tons of different ways that you can go about this, but these are just the core ways of actually programming it. There is something I forgot to add to the script, and it is all the way at the bottom, and we're not checking if the scepter is grabbed, so we could just potentially just walk into this and it'll automatically give us VIP, which again, it could be what you're looking for. Say if you have it at the end of a maze or something, you just want to grab it. Now, if you're using a scepter that you want full control, or whoever's going to be in VIP, we're going to need to add a check. So we'll just check when colliding with player. We'll see if it is grabbed. We add it to this one also, so I can demonstrate. If it is grabbed, we'll just throw that in there. Clear, reset. I get VIP for this one, but I don't have it for this one. Now I can't just run into it. It has to be picked up and given to me. But anybody could pick them up, which, again, might be desirable. If it's not, we have to do some changes. I'm just going to change this one, and we are going to set it, go to more, and then under who can grab, we're going to change it to script assignee. So now I can't grab it because it hasn't been assigned. And I go into the script. If you only want, say, yourself to be able to give VIP, when world is entered by player, we'll just check if name of player. So let's go down to our operators, find player, name of player. So if name of player equals your name, in my case, Gallon Moore, make sure I spell it right, yep. Then I'll just set who can grab. So let's go to actions and grab, set who can grab object, drop in our scepter, and then drop in our player. So now only my character can grab it. So now I can grab it, and then I can collide with myself, giving me or anybody else VIP. But since I already have it, it's just not going to give it to me. And that is pretty much it for the VIP. We're just going to go over the scripts quick. This one we're using the VIP list, so let's just change this name to VIP list. And just go over variables. We have a VIP string list. We have trigger, door, spawn point, scepter, ball, object variables, and then a boolean is grabbed, set to false. When the world is started, we are connecting our triggers, trigger enter, and trigger exit events to the local trigger enter and trigger exit events. We are then connecting our scepters grab start and grab end to local event grab start, grab end, and then we are connecting the ball collision enter to local event collision enter. Now, if you have two separate scepters, one to grant VIP and one to take away VIP, you will then have to create another object variable for that scepter and ball, and then you would have to create separate grab start, grab end, and collision events with different names, and make sure that they are requesting the player variable, or it won't work. So when world is entered by player, we're checking if the VIP list contains the name of the player. If it does, we're going to show a pop-up for that player saying, hey, you're in VIP. When trigger is entered by player, so the trigger for the door, if the name of the player is in the list, we're going to set the door collidability to false, else we're going to respawn the player somewhere else. When trigger is exited by player, if the name of the player is in the list, we're going to set door collidability to true. When object is grabbed, so when the scepter is grabbed, we're setting is grabbed to true. If it's released, we're setting it to false. And then when colliding with player, if it's grabbed and the name of the player that we're colliding with is not already in the VIP list, we're going to add name of player to that VIP list and then show a pop-up for that player saying, hey, you are now VIP, which will allow him or her to enter through that door. And that is it for the list way, so the manual and the temporary VIP access. Now for permanent access, let's look at our variables. The only difference is we do not have a VIP string list. We are using a PPV, so player variable called VIP. We're still connecting the objects events to the same events. The only difference is we have it set so that only I can pick up that scepter. So if name of player equals gallon more, we're going to set who can grab that scepter to that player. So only gallon more can pick up that scepter. We're just checking if VIP for that player equals 1. If it equals 1, we're going to say, hey, you're in VIP. And again, when trigger is entered and exited, we're just checking to see if VIP equals 1. We're still setting is grabbed when the scepter is grabbed and released. And then when colliding with player and it is grabbed, we're checking if the player persistent variable VIP for player equals 0. So if it's 0, we're going to set it to 1, and then we're going to show a pop-up saying, hey, you're in VIP, and you can enter the VIP area. And that is pretty much it for the VIP scripts. So that one, and we'll call that VIP list, and we'll just call this one VIP PPV. Okay. And that is it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about this video, or have suggestions for a future video, please let me know in the comments section below. If you liked the video or learned something new, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're notified of all my future videos. I tend to try to come out with a new video on Mondays. Sometimes, life happens and I have to push it back, but that is so far what I'm aiming for. And yeah, thanks for watching and have a good one.